Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all safe and doing well, especially after the recent Typhoon Christine and now Leon. It is great to see many of you joining us this morning for the session on the overview of the PPP code and its IRR and the guidelines for local review and approval. I am Shelo Regalado of the PPP Center's Capacity Building Division, your facilitator for this session. First of all, we would like to acknowledge the presence of our regional directors, assistant regional directors, division chiefs, and the NEDA Regional Development Group. From the NEDA RDG, we have Undersecretary Carlos Bernardo Oabad Santos, Director Remedios Endencia, and Director Cynthia Villena. From the Cordillera Administrative Region, we have Regional Director Apollo Edwin Pagano. From Region 1, we have RD Stephanie Christensen and ARD Irenia Ubungin. From Region 2, we have RD Janicio Ledres. From Region 3, we have RD Nerissa Esguerra and ARD Dolores Molintas. From Calabarzon, we have OICRD Carmel P. Matabang and ARD Walter Morada. From Mimaropa, RD Agustin Mendoza and ARD Bernardino Atienza. From Region 5, we have RD Edna Cynthia Berces and ARD Jasmine Zantua. From
Morning.
Region 6, we have RD Aresio Casing and ARD Alexander Aquillo. From Region 7, we have RD Jennifer Bretanya and ARD Evelyn Nacario Castro. From Region 8, we have RD Maylene Rosales and ARD Jam Colas Villaber. From Region 9, OICRD Leticia Lobren. Region 10, RD Myla Faye Aurora Carino and ARD Richardson Kua. From Region 11, RD Priscilla Sunido and OIC ARD Rosendo Ayaay. From Region 12, we have RD Florita Ridao and ARD Romel Patrick Tanghal. And from Caraga, we have RD Jemima Olam and ARD Mirasol Montenegro. Again, thank you for joining us this morning. Now to formally welcome everyone, may I invite Undersecretary Carlos Bernardo Oabad Santos of the NEDA Regional Development Group for the opening remarks.
Morning to everyone, to the regional directors, assistant regional directors, and technical staff from the NEDA regional offices, and our colleagues from the PPP Center. Good morning to everyone. On December of last year, the Republic Act 11966, or the PPP Code of the Philippines, was enacted. Subsequently, its implementing rules and regulations became effective April 6 of 2024, this year. And this September, the guidelines following the IRR, the guidelines on LGU project approval was issued by the PPP Governing Board. The new PPP code and its supporting measures clarifies the ambiguities in the build, operate, and transfer law, and it provides a unified legal framework for all PPPs, whether national or local. And under this framework, the roles of NEDA regional offices have expanded, not only in the different stages of the PPP process, but in assisting the local implementing agencies in navigating these recent policy changes. Meanwhile, the critical role of the RDCs in the PPP process remains. The RDC, Regional Public-Private Partnership Committee, or the RPPPC, which is a newly created, newly mandated body within the RDC, shall serve as the approving body of all local PPP projects affecting national or sectoral development plans and national projects. as well as those with proposed government undertakings or availability payments. However, this will be a demanding task considering that RPPPCs are required to accomplish this within the 30-day processing time as required by the issuance. The NROs, as the Secretariat of the RPPPCs, are responsible in facilitating this whole process. Specifically, the NROs shall not only conduct the completeness check of submitted documentary requirements of proposed PPP projects, but they should accomplish within 7 days, calendar days, from receipt of the proposal from the LGU. Again, with this expectation, we can already imagine the potential overwhelming workload and tasks ahead of you, particularly in provinces where there will be a lot of LGU um, LGU-led PPP projects. However difficult, it is our mandate to shepherd and ensure the expeditious implementation of the PPP projects that will contribute positively to our national and regional development goals. And I'm hoping that this activity, which is a appreciation activity, will be able to again review in terms of what needs to be done and for you to be able to plot um, subsequent capacity building activities for both the RDC and the NRO. Again, this was an offshoot of the activity of the PPP Center, the annual regional PPP forum, where um, which was attended by technical staff from the region. So again, some of your technical staff, particularly those who attended already the activity, would already know the guidelines and have gone through already completeness check process, a map completeness check process. They've already undergone that. But again, I intimated to PPP Center that it's again also important for the regional directors and assistant regional directors to be able to appreciate and understand the entire process, no? Hindi lang naman yung technical staff, but again, as the heads of the regional offices and as secretariat and vice chair of the RDCs, they should be able to have a good understanding of these new processes for the review, not approval, but the review of specific PPP projects of the LGUs, not all. So I guess that's where it's important to understand because not all PPP projects of the LGUs would have to go to the RDCs for approval. So again, this is a half day appreciation session, but again, it's important so it can again for you to determine what will be done next, no? Uh, Particularly also in terms of the creation of the RPPPC within the RDCs. Again, so again, I encourage everyone to take full advantage of this opportunity and engage our resource persons from the PPP Center. Um, Please ask your clarifications and share your thoughts and insights. Um, and also let me extend my sincerest gratitude to the PPP Center for continuously assisting and providing capacity building for NEDA and the NROs. With your continued help and support, we are confident that we'll be able to deliver what is expected of us, particularly what is expected of the NROs and the RDCs. Again, good morning, everyone, and again, hoping for a very engaging and productive morning ahead of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Yusek. Next, to ensure a smooth and productive session, please watch these house rules. So those are the house rules. We will now proceed to the objectives of the session. So this activity aims to provide an overview of the salient features of the PPP code and its IRR, focusing on the role of NROs in the PPP process. And also to inform the regional development councils and the regional public-private partnership committees of their roles in undertaking the review and endorsement process for local PPP projects, pursuant to the guidelines and procedures for the review and approval of local PPP projects by the appropriate approving body. So we will proceed to the program. After these opening activities, we will proceed to the discussion on the roles of NROs under the PPP code and its IRR. Following that, we will proceed to the guidelines and procedures for the review and approval of local PPP projects by the appropriate approving body. So in consideration din po of the schedule, we shall entertain questions after the presentations of our resource persons, but during the discussion, feel free to post your questions in the chat box and we will address them later during the open forum. All right? Also, we invite you to visit our core site using the link or the QR code on the screen. So there you'll find important links and reference materials for this session. So I'll give you a few moments to scan it. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our resource persons. First is Director Feroisa Francisca T. Concordia, who will discuss the roles of NROs under the PPP code and its IRR. And following that, DED Jeffrey I. Manalo will present the guidelines and procedures for the review and approval for local PPP projects by the appropriate approving body. So with that, I will now turn it over to Director Royce.
Thank you. Thank you, Shello. Good morning, everyone. Um, Allow me to share my screen just a moment. Okay, can you now see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's good. So, okay, so my presentation will just walk you through the role of NRO with regard to the new PPP code, no? So, the presentation of my presentation will be uh, just a refresher on the legal framework. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about the processes under the PPP code. No? So this is really the meat of the what this PPP code is all about. No? A lot of our clients, meaning to say our implementing agencies, the local government units, they keep asking questions. No, what do we do? Sorry, excuse me. Ah, oh, sorry. Okay. Next ko to. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. So again, our local implementing agencies, particularly local government units, local universities and colleges, no, they often ask, what do we do with our existing PPP code, local PPP code, no? So the answer to that is there's nothing for these implementing agencies, especially these local government units. No, there's no additional work for them. All they have to do is refer to the PPP code and its IRR. No, there's even no need for them to amend or to adopt or to customize. No, so that is a very important information for our stakeholders. Also, the important dates that we have to remember is that the PPP code was effective last December 23, 2023, and the IRR was effective April 6, 2024. So the PPP code and its IRR, you will notice later on that the timelines are very specific and that we have to observe, no, these processes under the prescribed timelines. Okay? So it's just a reiteration that all the old laws, the BOT law, the NEDA joint venture guidelines, all of these have been repealed. No? So again, we only use the PPP code and its IRR, no matter what type of agency, no, are asking whether what legal framework will they use. Okay, so let's take a look again at the processes. No, so the stages that we refer to for our project are: we have the development stage, the review and approval, and when we bid out, we call it the procurement stage. And of course, last but not the least is the implementation stage. No? So one by one, when we talk about the development stage, no? So let's review in the PPP code. So what is new now in the PPP code? No? So all implementing agencies are required to submit, no, their clips. What is this clips? This is the consolidated list of investment programs. A lot of questions have been raised by our friends from NEDA regional offices during the annual PPP Congress. No, clarifications on what is this clips all about. No, the local government units would have their own priority investment programs. They would have their own master plan, perhaps, no? And all of these things, even perhaps the local universities and colleges, uh, even the national implementing agencies, let's say the water districts, other regional offices, no? This clips is the sort of the universal, okay? The universal list, okay? So that's why it's called the consolidated list of investment programs, okay? So the NEDA shall provide the regional development councils. But you will notice, please do visit the PPP Center website. We keep on updating these clips and also the list of PPP projects. No, how to update? No, so the head of the implementing agency shall submit, and of course, the head of the implementing agency should approve. No, the list of PPP projects. So the list of PPP projects, no, to be submitted by the implementing agencies um, should contain the following information. Of course, depending on the at what stage the project is, right? So for example, an LGU already has a signed PPP contract, then that ongoing PPP project should be included in the list, no? And if the project is still at the very early stage, let's say project conceptualization, or it's just an idea, but there is an indication that the implementing agency is decided to include this in their list of priority projects, then it should be included here. Of course, if some of the information are not yet available, then it could be included that to be determined, no? So you will notice that the clips, no, or this list of PPP projects, no, the project should be found in the consolidated list of investment programs. of that particular implementing agency. Okay, so it could not be that a PPP project listed in their list of PPP projects and we cannot find it in their clips. No, so that is one of the requirements, that any PPP project listed in their list of PPP projects, uh, it should be aligned with their clips. All right. Okay. So, and of course, at the uh, still at the development stage, these implementing agencies should submit to the following oversight agencies. Okay. So, of course, to the NEDA, you can see the email address at our office, PPP Center. We do have the info@ppp.gov.ph and the concerned regional development councils. Okay, so we know that you are the secretariat to the RDC. For local PPP projects, they should submit as well to the local sanggunian. No? So there is a mechanism to update this list of PPP projects. No? So as I've said, there should be an explicit approval of the head of the implementing agency. And of course, there is also a mechanism to delist a particular PPP project. Of course, when the implementing agency decides to delist, they should provide a written notice, and a justification. Why is this important? Because we in government, all of us, including the local implementing agencies, we want to contribute to national development, and so we, of course, take a look at the alignment and even at the programming. So if a particular project is to be delisted by an implementing agency, they should provide justification, so that appropriate measures, will be put in place, perhaps of the oversight agencies. And notice that when is the occasion that, let's say, an unsolicited project included in the list of PPP projects? Of course, if that unsolicited project is already ongoing processing. No? So, for instance, the IA received, well, with regard to the unsolicited proposal, you know now that the first step is private sector would submit to the PPP Center. Now, assuming that the unsolicited proposal uh, has been assessed as complete submission, and therefore, that is the step one. And from there, the implementing agency would receive the that endorsement, meaning to say that the uh, unsolicited proposal that USP submitted to the PPP Center has been found to be complete, and the IA can include that unsolicited proposal as part of the list of PPP projects. No, of course, it doesn't mean that if, let's say, the uh, the unsolicited proposal is already included, then since it is part of the list of PPP projects, it may be converted to a solicited. No, so it's just a simple listing that depending on where the project is at a particular point in time, then it should be included in the list of PPP project indicated as unsolicited or solicited. Okay. So that is at the development stage. So whether it's a solicited or unsolicited, the list of PPP projects should be updated, looked at by the implementing agencies, and submitted to the oversight agencies. Okay, so of course on the review and approval stage for local, because our topic this morning is about the local approval process, the sanggunian, is the approving body for the local PPP projects. Local and approval stage, just to dive in. Of course, we know that local PPP projects, if they would require review of the RDC. Now it is the regional PPP committee to act on behalf of RDC. Then the project would have to pass through this endorsing body, no? So because this is necessary for the projects, no, that would require, for example, projects. Take a look. Projects, local PPP projects that would affect um, development plans, national development plans, or if there's an overlap with other national or local projects, then the RPPC will have to review and give their endorsement. Okay? And of course, if the project would require government undertaking, no? Local PPP project would require government undertaking from the national government funds, no? Then it has to pass through the RPPPC. Okay, so this is the process that the local PPP project will go through, and the role of the NEDA regional offices is really very important in this regard. Okay. The review and approval stage, no, as you can see, I've mentioned earlier that the timelines are specific. No? So that is one of the very good features of the PPP code now. We are all guided. No? So even the local, the Sanggunian, so for the NRO, for example, no, if you receive a request from the local government unit seeking endorsement, no, of their local PPP project, no, then you are given maximum of 30 calendar days to come up with your decision. Of course, the Secretariat of the RPPC would have to come up with the completeness check. No? So as you can see, the timelines are very clear, maximum of 60 calendar days in the case of ICC. And so at the local development council level, no, the LGU level, then it would be maximum of 30 calendar days and 120 calendar days for the Sanggunian. So notice the broken lines, no? So of course, if and when you will receive, and if you take a look at the clips in the region, and of course we will also provide you update the NROs if there are upcoming local PPP projects that may be requesting RPPC endorsement. We will of course provide you information. So this is the case when these local PPP projects would request RPPC endorsement. Okay, before this local approving body, the Sanggunian, would process the PPP project. All right. So that is at the approval stage. So I think I've already mentioned this. No. Now, co-grantorship of local PPP projects, no, it's possible that two LGUs, no, can pursue a PPP project, no. So, respectively, these LGUs will have to secure the Sanggunian, their concerned Sanggunian approval, no. Of course, it is possible that an LGU can also have partner co-grantorship with a national implementing agency. And therefore, in that instance, the approval of the concern, meaning the local Sanggunian and the concerned approving body for the national agency would be sought. No? Of course, we go back to what is the approval process for the national. So there are conditions. So just for your information, we go back to this. that national PPP projects, no, depending on the amount, no, and depending on some conditions, it could be that the head of the implementing agency could be the approving body. Of course, if it's the beyond the 15 billion threshold, then it has to go all the way up to the NEDA board. No? So just a recap on that. But of course, this is with regard to co-grantorship of local PPP projects. And of course, the appropriate approving body shall not delegate its authority, no, with regard to the approval of these PPP projects. Okay. Now, during the procurement stage, what is the role? Of course, the PPP project cannot proceed to the procurement stage unless there is an explicit approval. In fact, there should be a notice of approval being issued by the approving body. So in the case of local PPP projects, the local sanggunian should issue a notice of approval. Okay, so the procurement stage, no, depending on the decision of the bids and awards committee of that particular body, the LGU, no, they can resort to a two-stage qualification bidding stage, bidding process, or the simultaneous or single-stage qualification. No, so as you can see, for the two-stage qualification bidding, there should be first pre-qualification documents, and the second part will be the submission of the technical proposal and the financial proposal. For the simultaneous, as the term connotes, all the documents should be submitted, no? The first document, qualification documents, and of course, the technical and the financial documents. So the evaluation of which is specified, no, on the screen. Now, what is important for the unsolicited proposal if the particular project, no, just to recap, no, the PBAC will have to release the invitation for comparative proposal. So notice the again the timelines, no, it is calendar days. So it's very important for all the parties involved, no, this local government units, the PBAC, no, to observe these timelines. And the issuance, no, for unsolicited proposals, no, just to inform that whenever an implementing agency grants the original proponent status, there is an expiration period for that. It is only given to the original proponent within a 1-year period. And the other salient features of the PPP code under the comparative challenge process, no, there is that right to match, no, for the proponent, and that is also specifically provided to be only to be conducted within 30 calendar days, no. So these are the processes involved for the bids and awards committee of the respective implementing agency, the LGU, okay, for the local, specifically LGU PPP project. Now, this is really the role of the NRO representative to the PBAC if, I emphasize, if the LGU so decides to request a representative from the NEDA regional office. As you would notice, in the third column, the NEDA regional office representative is an observer. It is not a voting member. Okay, so and the word in the IRR says as applicable. So there may be other local government units which may not request the NEDA regional office to designate an observer, no, a representative from the NEDA regional office. Then that could be the case, no. So this is the role of the NEDA regional representative as an observer to the PBAC of local implementing agencies. No, of course, the absence of, let's say, an NRO observer to the PBAC would not stop the PBAC from proceeding with their meeting. No? So what is important is that you are notified of the schedule of the meetings, and you can submit your observations during the proceedings, no, the discussions during the PBAC, no. So as an observer, uh, you may not participate in a way, actively discuss, but you can note and submit your observations. Okay, so that is the role of the NRO representative during the procurement stage, whether it is solicited or unsolicited. So again, depending on the local government unit, the PBAC of that local government unit, they may request uh, an observer from the NEDA regional office. Okay, so as I've mentioned, no, observers shall be provided all of these documents, and you can, of course, provide your observations. And you may be required to submit or enter into a confidentiality agreement with the an LGU or the local implementing agency. Okay, so that is at the procurement stage. Pagdating naman po sa implementation stage, no? Again, in the PPP code, it's very strict, and in the IRR, that all these implementing agencies should furnish, no, the PPP center a copy of the signed PPP contract within the specified period. No, it's 5 calendar days. No, for existing contracts. No, because we notice that when they submit their list of PPP projects, no, we realize that, oh, this LGU has a signed PPP contract. No, so they have to submit the existing PPP contract. No, now for the implementation and monitoring of PPP projects, we will be using the PPP monitoring and reporting framework, soon to be issued by the PPP governing board. No, but there is an existing, and we can still make use of that. Now, the RPMC, that is the Regional Project Monitoring Committee, that is it's an ongoing activity, right, of the NEDA regional office, that you monitor projects. So we will be making use of this RPMC to monitor as well all PPP projects in the region. No? So the monitoring and evaluation of all development projects. No? So if there are local PPP projects as well, it will be brought up to this monitoring committee, no, of the NEDA regional office, no, through this regional project monitoring committee. No? So the PPP Center will definitely take part in this monitoring activity. No? So we again emphasize the importance of having your participation, giving us information whenever we monitor PPP projects on the ground. No, so that is just the very short presentation, just to walk you through the different project stages. First, just to recap, at the development stage, where we need to take a look at the CLIPS, the consolidated list of investment programs, master plans that they have, and there the submission of list of PPP projects. Please do visit our website. And of course, at the approval stage, depending on the type of project, if it would require RDC endorsement, Otherwise, it will just go directly to the respective sanggunian. And at the procurement stage, it is not mandatory, depending on the IA, if they request the representative from the NEDA regional office. And last but not the least, very important, is the regional project monitoring committee for our PPP project. So thank you very much for your attention.
All right, thank you very much, Director Royce. Now we will proceed to the next topic. Again, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. We will take note of your question and we will address them later during the open forum. So without further ado, I'll turn you over to DED Jeff for the discussion on the guidelines and procedures for the review and approval of the local PPP projects by the appropriate approving body. So DED Jeff.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to check if I can be heard clearly. Okay, I think we're good. So, magandang umaga po sa lahat. My task for this morning is to run you through the local PPP approval guidelines that was issued by the PPP Governing Board. May I request my teammates to kindly put on the screen our presentation deck? So in my presentation today, this is just an overview. I just want to highlight what is in the local approval guidelines that was issued by the PPP Governing Board, and highlight the major rules and processes under the guidelines. So if we can go to the next slide. So that is let me take off from the presentation of Royce. She has provided you an overview of the process for PPP projects. My part of the presentation will focus mostly on this stage, no, the review and approval stage. Next slide, please. So again, just to recap, and we get a lot of questions here. For local PPP projects, the thresholds, the 15 billion threshold does not apply. So for local PPP projects, there is no project cost threshold. So regardless of project cost, it is the Sanggunian which approves the local PPP project after it is endorsed or confirmed by the Local Development Council, EXECOM. Next slide, please. So the guidelines that we are talking about, and you can find this in our website, and we can also send this, upload this in the course site that my teammates mentioned earlier. PPP Governing Board Resolution number 2024-07-02. It's the guidelines and procedures for the review and approval of local PPP projects by the appropriate approving body under the PPP Code of the Philippines and its IRR. Just to situate how come this issuance, no, or how this fits into the entire PPP legal framework. Recall that the PPP code, when it was issued, there is already a clear guidelines in the law that states for the approval of PPP projects, the requirements, the rules, and the procedures shall be issued by, number one, the ICC for national PPP projects, and the PPP Governing Board, number two, for local PPP projects. And this is basically the act of the PPP Governing Board implementing what has been covered in the law and in the IRR. Now, I'd like to highlight, though, that the first bullet, since this was issued only in September of this year, and the law became effective December and the IRR last April of this year. Between April and today, I mean between April and September, uh, LGUs who were processing the approval of their PPP projects were following the interim guidelines, no, which was also issued by the PPP Governing Board. That is Resolution number 2024-0402. That's the interim guidelines that was being followed by LGUs. But after the issuance of this PPP Governing Board, that has been superseded already. What I want to highlight next is the last bullet on our screen. That is all those projects that were submitted to the appropriate bodies prior to the effectivity of these guidelines, then those shall be processed in accordance with the rules effective at the time of submission. So they don't need to start from scratch, no? Kung nasa gitna na nung processing using the interim guidelines, yung isang local PPP project, when these guidelines was published, then they can proceed under the old rules, that is the interim guideline. So only those projects that will start the approval process after these guidelines has been published ang mag-undergo ng process na ito from step 1. So I hope that's clear. Let's go to the next slide. Well, this is just another general guidelines that you can find in the policy. So one, just in case may mga magtatanong po, there shall be no local ordinances to be issued relating to the review and approval of local PPP projects. So these PPP GB guidelines, which was set in accordance with the law and the IRR, shall be the governing process, no, for the approval and the review and approval of local PPP projects. So, kailangan pa bang mag-issue ng ordinance ng mga LGUs para ma-adapt ito? No need. It's already self-implementing, no? Effective at the time it was published in September. Now, the other general guidelines is, and you will notice as we will go through the process today, maraming deadlines, no? Maraming calendar days na minention. And to align, the guidelines has a provision on the computation of period. So basically, paano tayo magbibilang? One, calendar days. Number two, the day one will start the next day, no? From kung ano man yung the first day shall be excluded. So ibig sabihin yung next day, yung susunod na day 1 natin. And then the last day shall be included. Now, if the last day, third point, if the last day falls on a non-working holiday, then mamumove sa next working day yung deadline. But in terms of counting, kasama ang lahat ng non-working days. So for instance, if a submission is, or if an action is initiated on a Friday, day 1 will be Saturday. No? Day 1 will be Saturday. Kasama siya sa counting ng mga timelines. All right. So without further ado, I think we can proceed to the first, let me start with the institutions, no, that you will find in the guidelines. First is the Regional PPP Committee. What is the function of the Regional PPP Committee? It shall act on behalf of the RDC, no, in processing local PPP projects pursuant to the rules under the IRR and the PPP code. I understand, based on the initial rollout that we have conducted, medyo may concern on the term that was used, that is yung subcommittee of the RDC. We have flagged this to the PPP Governing Board. We understand it could have been clearer if the idea is that it is a special committee of the RDC, no? Nevertheless, what is clear in the guidelines is its role, and that is it shall act on behalf of the RDC, meaning when it acts on the proposed PPP project, there is no need to elevate it to the full RDC. Magiging binding po yung action nitong Regional PPP Committee. Question, pwede bang the Regional PPP Committee, can we, by our initiative, convene and discuss this with the full RDC because we feel the discussion and the discourse will be richer? The answer is yes, so long as the Regional PPP Committee will be able to render the decision within the 30 calendar days. Kumbaga, diskarte na po ng Regional PPP Committee if you want to discuss it with other entities, no, outside of the membership under the guidelines. But reminder that the accountability in terms of meeting the timeline is with the Regional PPP Committee. Sino yung Regional PPP Committee? On the right side of our screen is the composition. Chairpersons, no? The RDC full council chairperson and co-chairperson. And then the members are the chair of the standing committees, the 4 standing committees, no? Sectoral committee. And then the secretariat will be the NRO concerned, no? Question that we always get, what if we decide to use our execom, no, as a replacement to the Regional PPP Committee? The answer would be, so long as the voting members or the decision makers, no, will be the ones that are on your screen, then that is already the call of the Regional PPP Committee. I think sa madaling salita po, kung sino yung naka-indicate na members dito, yun po ang decision maker. So if you want to invite, no, if the committee wants to invite a larger group, there is no prohibition to do that, but the accountability, the power to decide on the projects rests on these members. We understand also, as a last note in this slide, there were suggestions made, no, to probably expand, no, and include NEDA, for instance, as a member, not just a secretariat. We have noted that, and we are to raise that to the PPP Governing Board, along with other comments, suggestions that we will be getting coming out of this session today. If I may quote Sec Balisacan, the intent really is this document is a live policy, no? As we implement it and we see that there should be improvements to be made, then we should raise it to the board, to the PPP Governing Board, and that could be deliberated by the PPP Governing Board. Okay, so that's the first institution, the Regional PPP Committee. The second institution or a second structure that you will see is the Execom of LDC. What are its functions? So it has to review if the PPP project is aligned and consistent with the local development plans of the LGU, and it shall review the proposed project and identify concerns to aid the decision of the approving body during the approval, no? I will I will drill down on more details in the succeeding slides, no? But just to give you an idea, so this is another entity that you will find in the guidelines, and I know many of us are already familiar with the composition. What I just want to highlight here is that, yes, it is not the LDC that is the actor. In the same manner, doon sa regional PPP committee, it is the EXECOM who has the authority and the duty to perform the roles, no? So it's the EXECOM acting on behalf of the LDC. And then next slide, please. The local sanggunian, of course, as our approving body for all local PPP projects. I know we're all familiar with the composition, so I'll spare the discussion here. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. Question that we always get: what are the things that we need to look into, no? In general, the IRR, what the IRR is trying to establish is that at the approval stage, no, doon sa review and approval, the intent is to finalize the parameters, terms, and conditions of a proposed project. And these PTCs, no, parameters, terms, and conditions, are the ones that will be embedded in the final draft contract that will be subjected to a either in the case of solicited, the bidding process. In the case of unsolicited, the comparative challenge process. So the IRR lists down what these are, and may templates po ito. I just included it here to illustrate that there is some guidelines on what we need to look into. However, as I discussed the succeeding slides, nag-iiba-iba, hindi pare-pareho yung level or yung impact nung review nung iba't ibang entities, and I can discuss that one by one later. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is a familiar slide. Royce showed this earlier. A snapshot of the approval process of local PPP projects. So as explained earlier, let me start with the third and the fourth box, no? These are the two processes that are applicable to all local PPP projects, regardless of project cost, regardless of whether it is solicited or unsolicited. All local projects need to get the confirmation of the Local Development Council EXECOM before securing the approval of the local sanggunian or LUC board in the case of ating mga LUCs, no? Now, there are two prior requirements before you could go to the Local Development Council EXECOM for certain instances, no? As mentioned by Royce kanina, dalawa, no? Dalawang specific instances. One, if the proposed local PPP project affects national or sectoral development plans and or national projects, then the regional PPP committee endorsement is required. Now, the other is when the proposed local PPP project requires any financial undertaking from the national government, which excludes national tax allocation. We also get this question a lot. National tax allocation is excluded when we talk of this provision. No, we're only talking of what kind of financial government undertakings: guarantee, loan guarantee, sovereign guarantees, etc., etc. So subsidy, for instance, coming off from the national budget. So these are the things that we're pertaining to when we talk of local projects requiring ICC approval, no, for national government undertaking. What is the process in these cases? First, get the regional PPP committee endorsement, and once endorsed, the ICC approval for the proposed government undertaking. Once the two are secured, that's the only time you go to the LDC EXECOM and then later on the Sangguniang. All right. Now let's dissect these four processes just to give you an idea no how the internal processing would be. Next slide please. Sabi natin kanina, ang applicable sa lahat ng local PPP projects, yung confirmation of the Local Development Council, EXECOM. They have 30 days to do that, no? In the guidelines, in the issuance, there is annexes A1 and A2. In your screen, you will see a list, no? But if you read the guidelines, each item listed here were defined in details, no? So for instance, yung letter of the head of the LGU, LUC, meron po yang parang definition, no, on what it should contain. Dapat nakalagay ano yung title ng project, ano yung general description, etc., etc. Each one item here, so feasibility study, for instance, there is a long list, basically a list of requirements, no, information and data requirements that need to be included in the feasibility study before we could call it a complete feasibility study. The same goes for the economic model, the financial model, etc. Okay, so why did I have to emphasize that? Because on the next slide, please. Because when the project reaches no the RDC, kasi isasubmit nila assuming tapos na yung project development phase, again nasa local approval phase tayo, no? The first touch is with the LDC secretariat for I'm sorry, for LDC Execom secretariat, no? For those na hindi kailangan ng special requirements. Meaning hindi nakaka-affect sa national project at walang kailangan from the national government, no? So the first step is for the LDC Execom Secretariat to determine the completeness of the submission within 7 calendar days. If it is complete, then they shall issue a notice of completeness, and then they will endorse the project to the LDC Execom for deliberation. If incomplete, no, the LDC Secretariat already has the authority to issue the notice of completeness, again without elevating, no, without elevating to the LDC Execom. They can issue the incompleteness notice, and then that's basically the end of the process, no? The LGU can resubmit, but that will trigger another a fresh 7 calendar day completeness check. Okay, so those are the instances kung complete and incomplete. Now, if the LDC Secretariat fails to act within 7 calendar days, no, if there is a non-action or a failure to decide, the submission shall be deemed incomplete, no? But the secretariat may be exposed. Of course, this is not automatic, no? But we are just flagging that the penal provision of the law includes failure to the prohibition to or the failure to act on PPP projects, no? So there is that exposure already. Now, failure of the LDC Secretariat shall not hinder the LGU to resubmit again, no? But it shall then copy furnish the PPP Center for documentation and monitoring purposes. So basically, we will know whether, kunyari nakailang 7 days na hindi nag-act, for instance, yung secretariat, so we could intervene, no? Accordingly. So let's now assume that the project was determined to be complete, no, by the LDC Secretariat. The next slide shows na matitrigger na yung next slide, please. Matitrigger na yung 30 calendar day deliberation of the LDC Execom. Ano-ano ang assignment? There has to be a deliberation and a report shall be submitted to the appropriate approving body, no, through a resolution. What shall the report include? On the screen, you will see 4 bullets, no? Yung isa may sub-bullet. One is the confirmation that whether the project is aligned and consistent with the local development plans. Number 2, if there are any concerns or issues that they may identify, it may even include, no, a recommendation to the approving body that even if it is not required because hindi siya makaka-affect sa national project, the LDC Execom can recommend to the approving body to seek the guidance, no, of the RDC for the proposed project. So that's just to give you an example. And number 3, if the LDC Execom finds that there could be PTCs, no, parameters, terms, and conditions that should be added or should be excluded, they may also recommend that for consideration by the approving body, include that as part of the report. And then, as may be applicable, confirm that the required prior endorsements and or approval of the requested government undertakings from the national government have been secured. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Sabi natin kanina, all projects will have to pass through LDC Execom. But there are local projects that would require extra endorsements, no, yung special cases. In which case, by the time these projects would have reached the LDC Execom stage, dapat part na nung submission nila yung endorsement na nakuha nila sa Regional PPP Committee or yung approval ng ICC if that is applicable to the particular project. Now, question, what happens after the 30 or within the 30 calendar days? Dalawa lang po ang scenarios natin after the 30 calendar days. Either the LDC will confirm and submit the report to the what do you call this? To the appropriate approving body. Sorry, I stand corrected. So the LDC Execom Secretariat shall provide its report to the LGU because it is the LGU who is submitting it to the what do you call this, to the appropriate, to the sanggunian, no? This also means that this LDC Execom stage has no kill button, no, for lack of a better term. Wala po siyang kill button. They may include all of the negative comments, for instance, kung may mga red flags na nakita, it should be included in the report, but it cannot cause the stoppage of a project. The report to be generated will be for the consideration of the sanggunian because it is the sanggunian who will approve or disapprove the project. So, what happens then if the LDC Execom fails to issue such report, no, such confirmation within the prescribed period? The effect is that the proposal shall be deemed confirmed. Ano ang action? Ang action na po ay nasa head of LGU, no? They can inform in writing the appropriate approving body, they can proceed. So in short, ipapasa na nila yung documents diretso sa sanggunian stating that the LDC Execom has failed to prescribe to meet the prescribed timeline and therefore it is already deemed confirmed. Okay, so that is the discussion on the confirmation of Local Development Council Execom. Now, I go to the sanggunian. Assuming we have successfully secured, the confirmation, the report by the LDC Execom, the next step is for the LGU to submit these documents you see on our screen, no, to the Secretariat of the Sanggunian. And next slide, please. Only so within 7 calendar days, similar. So you will see a pattern, no? May pattern naman itong mga rules natin. Within 7 calendar days, the Secretariat will also do a completeness check. Similarly, doon sa kanina, if it's complete, then the Secretariat will issue a notice of completeness and endorse the project documents for the deliberation of the Sanggunian. If it is incomplete, then it does not go to the Sanggunian. The Secretariat has the power, has the authority, actually the responsibility to return it already. If there is no action, it will be deemed incomplete, no, beyond 7 days. But similar doon sa kanina, the LGU can resubmit, this time copying the PPP center, no, for documentation and monitoring purposes. Now, if within the 7 calendar day period, ma-declare as complete yung submission, let's go to the next slide, please. That will kick in, the 120 calendar day will kick in, no? The counting of the 120 calendar day period. Ano yung kailangan gawin ng sanggunian? There are 4 bullets again. Well, first, review the proposed local PPP project. If needed, no, request a meeting, including dun sa private proponents. If there are clarifications needed for the project, recommend the maximum reasonable rate of return to be set in case of single complying and responsive bid for solicited PPP projects. Again, that third bullet is very very rare instance yan. Solicited na isa lang yung nagbid, no? Ang madalas sa LGU ay unsolicited. So I wouldn't dwell much on this, no? But the last point, finally, is to decide whether the proposed local PPP project is approved or disapproved. Note that in the first bullet, yung review of the proposed local PPP project, part of the required submissions is the report coming from the LDC Execom. So there you will already see some ma-flag na yung ibang issues. So what are the actions? Either approve or disapprove. If there is a failure to decide, no, a final decision within the 120 calendar day period, what happens next according to the law and the IRR? Next slide, please. If the approving body fails to render a final decision, the project shall be deemed approved, no? How will this be operated? The IA may proceed with the procurement of the project after they have received a notification from the PPP center. So we are monitoring. No, in the guidelines, you will see that the PPP center is required to be copied in the official transmittals related to the project. This will allow us to monitor the movement, no, such that after, when we see that there is the 120 calendar day period has already lapsed, we shall then issue a notice to the LGU that the project is deemed approved. And upon the receipt of that notice from the PPP center, they can proceed to procurement within 7 calendar days. Okay. So, yan yung dalawa na yung na-touch natin, no? Yung required by to all, the LDC Execom and then the Sanggunian. Now, let me go to yung special rules, no? Again, recap. Lahat dadaan sa LDC Execom at Sanggunian. Yung iba, may special instances. If it will affect national or sectoral development plans and national projects, you will be needing the endorsement of the regional PPP committee. Kung may kailangan from the national government, the financial government undertaking, or pareho, no? Nakaka-affect na at nagre-require pa ng budget from the national government, then they need to secure both the endorsement of the Regional PPP Committee and then the ICC for the national government undertaking. Now, let's go to the process. Let's dissect this. If a project will require the endorsement of a regional PPP committee, a set of documents will have to be completely submitted to the secretariat. And these are where our dear NROs will be involved, no? All of these requirements, similar dun sa kanina, there is an Annex A1 for solicited projects and Annex A2 for unsolicited. Again, there are already forms, templates, and definitions on each of these items you see on the screen. At mauuna na po ako, no? Next year, we are programming and we are closely coordinating with NEDA and the NROs. We will program mga capacity building sessions po, no? Para what do you call this? Makapag-level off tayo on how we conduct yung actual completeness check so that ma-standardize natin how we all appreciate the submissions and the definitions in the guidelines. So that is in order. In the meantime, we have ang hotline ninyo ay itong evaluation at ppp.gov.ph for any questions and clarifications, and we are making ourselves available. Okay, that's a side note. Going back, if a local project will need the endorsement of the regional PPP committee, it will submit these documents. Ang first touch, next slide please. In the first 7 days, the secretariat, so these will be our NROs, no, to conduct a completeness check. So similar to how I described earlier, if complete, magi-issue ng notice of completeness. Kapag incomplete, hindi na yan aakyat sa regional PPP committee. The NRO alone, no, will already return the project, issue a notice of incompleteness. And then, in case of no actions, katulad pa rin kanina, it will be deemed incomplete, but there may be an exposure under the penal provision of the law. Let's go to the next slide. What is now needed, no? Assuming the proposal is complete, what happens to the 30 calendar day deliberation of the regional PPP committee? Okay? So the answer is, it depends on what is needed, no? On why the regional PPP committee endorsement is needed. For instance, and I'll start yung mas maikse sa gitna, no? If the reason for going to the regional PPP committee is to get the endorsement kasi yung project ay may kailangang national government funds pero hindi naman siya nakaka-affect sa national or sectoral development plan and national project, what the regional PPP committee needs to discuss are these, no? Those 3 bullets. To confirm that the government undertaking and or availability payments shall be using national government funds. No? Second, identify concerns or issues, no, to aid the ICC and the LDC Execom concerned, and later on the approving body during their respective deliberations. Meaning, you can still see the documents kasi as you see in the requirements, you will get a copy of the feasibility studies, etc. So you can review that and flag any issues that you see, no? And then a decision whether you will endorse or not endorse the project. Here is the thing, no? Ang difference ng regional PPP committee decision from the LDC Execom decision is that the RDC Execom decision has a kill button. within the 30 calendar day period, no, if the decision of the regional PPP committee is to not endorse the project, the LGU, cannot proceed to the next stage. They will have to satisfy kung may conditions man whatsoever ang regional PPP committee. Why was this power given? Because this is the provision in the law that states or that supports yung local autonomy, but at the same time ensuring that there is harmonization between national plans and LGU plans and projects. So if the regional PPP committee thinks, no, na medyo non-negotiable yung proposed local project because it will be detrimental to the national landscape, no, either a sector master plan or a national project, then there is that power to sort of manage, no, and ensure na pwedeng mag-coexist yung dalawang proposed project. So yun yung main difference po ng regional PPP committee endorsement. Now, going back dun sa what is to be deliberated, assuming naman I'll go to the left-hand side of our screen, pagka nakaka-affect sa national or sectoral development plans, kung yung project, the 4 bullets that you see on the screen, no, are the things that we can deliberate on, no. So that would include yung inclusion, exclusion ng mga PTCs, parameters, terms, and conditions, for consideration by the execom concerned, the approving body during their respective deliberations. And basically, yung nasa right-hand side naman, kung parehong meron na meet na hit ng project yung criteria na dalawa, then just combine the two, no, para isahan lang. And then next slide, as I mentioned earlier, ito yung mga possible scenarios, no? So the regional PPP committee may endorse without condition, so basically we're all good, no? Or not endorsed, meaning ito yung kill button that I mentioned earlier, no? Or pwede namang may conditions, no? Conditional endorsement. In which case, no, a notice of conditional endorsement shall be issued, and that conditional endorsement shall include, so it is a requirement, hindi pwedeng open-ended. It has to include a deadline for the LGU, LUC to address or meet the conditions provided, and failure to do so shall be considered as a non-endorsement. So parang may auto-kill kapag conditional, no? So this is something that you can discuss during the deliberation. Note that when the project is deliberated, the private sector may be the proponent may be invited, no? There's no prohibition there para mas clarified yung discussion. And finally, the last scenario is that if the RPPC fails to render a decision, then the local PPP project shall be deemed endorsed, no, without prejudice to any liabilities under the law. Again, if you fail to act within the 120 calendar days, then it is deemed endorsed. But if you decide to not endorse the project, they cannot proceed to the next phase. They can, however, resubmit, no, so that it will trigger a fresh 30 calendar day process, no, for you to check whether yung inyong mga concerns have already been addressed. All right, I think if we go to the next slide, I think this is the last, no, yung sa ICC naman. Assuming the project requires the approval of the ICC, ito naman yung syempre medyo mas marami yung requirements, no, at the ICC. level. And they have maximum of 60 calendar days. But everything else, no, is basically the same, at least in principle. The first step is completeness check. Only after it is tagged as complete, magi-start yung 60 calendar days. Failure to act will be a deemed approval. Probably what I just want to highlight here, no, is that in case the ICC disapproves the proposed undertaking, no, and note na ang framing natin dito ay hindi project ang dinideliberate, but the requested undertaking. If the ICC disapproves or does not want to provide the support, it will only be a disapproval of the requested support. The project, the LGU, can continue with their project just without the requested undertaking. So kung kunyari, financial guarantee ang nire-request tapos hindi inapprove ni ICC, if the LGU thinks they can do even without the financial guarantee, then the project can proceed. Okay. So that is also clear in the law. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I mentioned this already. Whether to approve without condition, approve with condition, or disapprove, no? Next slide, please. And this is the last slide. What we have just discussed so far is just the first set of rules under the local approval guidelines. And that is the process governing yung review and approval stage. In the PPP GB issuance that I am describing, there are other rules, no, that you can note. For instance, nandun yung rules papaano pwede magpalit ng parameters, terms, and conditions sa mga project na naaprubahan na ng sanggunian, yung PTCs. Can they go back? The answer is yes. And there is a process, a set of requirements. Paano i-determine yung reasonable rate of return, specifically for single complying solicited bids? Paano naman kung ang papalitan ay yung terms ng contract because the contract has been signed already? So we have the approval of variation, expansion, or extension. There is also a set of rules there. And then there is yung finally yung approval of change kapag may withdrawal, substitution ng mga private partners or member firms. But for today, as our objective is really to focus on the approval phase, dun tayo nag-focus, no? But this is just an FYI for everyone. I think this is my last slide. We are now opening the floor for questions and clarifications. Thank you.
All right, thank you, DED Jeff. We took note of the questions earlier during the discussions sent in the chat box. So for the first set of questions, we have 5, mostly related to the TOR. So let me just share the slide for the question. All right, so the first question is from NRO 4A. Will there be a uniform TOR for the RPPC for all RDCs, or each RDC can or should make their own TOR for their own RPPCs? Also, follow up on the query last October 10 to 11 on the PPP training for Luzon LGUs and LUCs. Can sectoral committee co-chairpersons be members of the RPPPC with voting rights?
Okay, let me take this one. So on the first question, uniform TOR, no? This is how I would answer this. And our Sorry, can we flash the questions lang? So the answer is right now there is no like separate guidelines on parang on a uniform TOR, no? What we have, if you look at the guidelines, is a uniform set of forms and templates, which means parang pare-pareho tayo ng level of details na tinitignan. But in terms of standardizing, and this was raised, no, we are in talks with the Office of USEC Caloy. In fact, prior to this, we recognize that there may be a need for that, no, on how we can standardize our appreciation, our understanding, and probably the capacity building session will be able to help in doing that, and then probably as a form of a toolkit, no, which we can all use. So that's how I would answer the first one. Dun sa follow-up question, can the sectoral committee co-chairpersons be members of the RPPC with voting rights? At the moment, no, because quite explicit na yung SecCom through the chair has one vote. We have noted this, however, for discussion with the PPP Governing Board. But unless the rules are amended, yung voting natin is yung composition that I have described earlier.
Okay, thank you, DD Jeff. Next question is from NRO3. Relative to the query on the TOR, aside from review of local PPP projects, may the RDC3 full council assign other related functions to RPPC?
Sir, I think may we know anong other related functions yung kino-contemplate natin on this one?
Sir, you may also unmute your mic po. Sir Al.
You know what? Suggestion ko, don't think about these things first. Do the work first. And then let it ano na lang. Do not overcomplicate this thing that we have right now, di ba? So again, I was thinking, you have this guideline, you have this specific objective. Let's work on that first, and then let's see if we can add on to the functions later on.
Yeah. Thank you, Yusek. I was supposed to say the same thing because I just saw the clarification na hypothetical na if ever mag-arise na other issues. Siguro for now, the guidelines provide yung TOR natin, yung general TOR, no? Maybe we can focus on that first. And then there's a question, Shalo, I'll take this on, ano, yung TOR for the creation of RPPC. Yes, we have noted this kasi it's really the RDC who shall issue a resolution, yung actual creation shall be through the RDC, no? Yes, we have identified this as a to-do, probably a sort of a template that the RDCs can adapt. Yeah.
Which means pwede po palang masagot yung number 2 na pwede ding may co-chairperson. Kasi yung EXCOM includes the co-chairpersons of the RDC. SECOMs. May mayors pa, may governors pa.
Sir, let me clarify that, no? What we will provide is the what do you call this? Yung creation, parang template document that could create the regional PPP committee. Pero po yung kung sino yung membership nun, yun po ay nasa guidelines na eh. So standard na po yun unless an amendment is made.
Precisely po, kasi yung executive committee is composed of the SECOM chairs and co-chairs. At saka kasama din yung governors and city mayors. So if you're going to entertain this question that the RDC 9 could establish their RPPC as the executive committee, then number 3 and number 2 or the follow-up question should also be allowed if we're going to
Sir,
entertain this. But we
Sir.
should decide whether we can accommodate that the executive committee can serve as the RPPC. Since Yusek Kaloy already have mentioned na i-follow na lang natin kung ano yung nandito sa guidelines.
Sir, sorry
Thank
to
you.
cut you off, no? I have just answered the first point of item 3. That is if you guys can request for the creation ng RPPC. And I'm saying, yes, this has been discussed. We intend to come up with a template. Now, on the second point, whether the RDC 9 Execom can act as the regional PPP committee, I have mentioned this in the presentation earlier that the membership cannot, no? We cannot change the membership. So if the Execom will adopt if the Execom will be the one who will act as the regional PPP committee, only those na may voting power under the local approval guidelines ang may vote. Meaning, the SECCOM chair, the RDC full co-chairs ang may vote. All the rest, they can participate if that is your preference, as I have mentioned earlier, but that is not, their votes will not count because hindi po sila member nung regional PPP committee.
Observers lang po yung iba.
Yes,
so
sir.
hindi rin sila pwedeng makapag-express kung ano yung na opinions nila regarding the review. Tama po ba?
Sir, they may, if the regional PPP committee invites them, for instance, as resource persons, observers, and bigyan sila ng platform where they can express, that pwede po yun. Wala pong ganong prohibition. Ang sinasabi lang po natin that the final decision will be coming from the membership composition nung regional PPP committee. And those are the full RDC chairs and the 4 SECCOM chairs with NRO as the secretariat. I hope that is clear. All right, I think we can...
Di man kasi sir, provided pwede rin mag-invite ng mga resource persons. Does
Come
the
again, sir? I'm sorry.
does the IRR prescribe that the RPPC may invite other persons? Wala po, wala din po doon.
Is that a question, sir? I think I can confirm that there is no explicit mention in the IRR that says regional PPP committees can or should invite resource person. But I can also confirm that there is no prohibition. I hope that addresses it, sir.
DD Jeff, I think Ma'am Estrella Luz is raising her hand. Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Ma'am Estrella, the floor is yours.
Hey, sorry, hindi pa po na unmute. Thank you po, ASEC Jeff, again, and to Executive Director Royce for responding to our request po sa NEDA 10 for the orientation we conducted for the past 2 days. So, related lang po doon sa question number 1 and number 3, just a clarification. Tama po ba if we assume that the representation of the sector committee chair dito sa RPPC is more of the representation as SECOM chair rather than a personal? We were just thinking na if they are not available when we convene, assuming because there is a voting aspect of the committee, their representation is more of the RDC sector committee rather than a personal, parang representative. So that when they are not available, sino ba yung pwedeng mag-represent on their behalf? Is it the sector committee membership of the RDC or pwede silang mag-recommend kung sino yung pwede nilang ipasit on their behalf in case they're not available for a meeting, for example?
Yeah. So the short answer, ma'am, is silent yung guidelines, no? It did not mention anything about that. Offhand, and I'd like to get the insights of Yusek Kaloy also. Offhand, we're thinking baka pwedeng ma-include doon sa creation ng regional PPP committee. Parang dahil i-standardize natin, we will propose like a template to include sort of a parang house rules ng regional PPP committee in terms of, okay, the membership is X, but in the absence of, pwede ang representative provided may letter or something to that effect. So that's what we're thinking.
Excuse me. The RDs are here. Okay. Relative to that comment, which again the guidelines are silent, but you might need to have it. Again, I would suppose, no, offhand, but validated to the mga RDs na if we're asking if the chair is not available, diba? Then it's a co-chair. Okay? Doon sa and then sa sectoral chairs, kung hindi available yung chair, yun yung co-chair, yung first, can that be a general rule, or are you thinking somewhat na yung chair ang magdi-decide kung sino sa mga miyembro ang i-authorize niya? So those are two rules na we can discuss. So I need inputs from the RDs in terms of what do you think would be an appropriate rule, let's say, no? It's not in the guidelines, but again, if you make your own TOR, we'll have to put those rules. So what would be the appropriate rep in case the second chair is not available for the meeting?
Yusek Kaloy, if I may.
Yes.
Jeff. Yeah, to my mind, Yusek Kaloy, it should be the co-chair ng SECOM. Kasi siya yung alter ego ng SECOM chair. And I'd like to believe na yung magiging inputs niya dun sa review ng proposal, ang dinadala niyang perspective ay sa buong SECOM. So it should be the co-chair rather than sino lang ang i-appoint niya. Like, it's also possible na mag-designate siya ng somebody from his or her agency. For instance, sa Social Development Committee ng RDC 8, ang chairperson is the Regional Director of DSWD. So para sa akin, hindi dapat na mag-designate siya ng, for example, ARD niya sa DSWD. Kasi that would be very parang parokyal yung representation. Sa pang DSWD lang yon. Whereas yung co-chair, ang dala niya na perspective ay ng buong SECOM na re-represent niya. So for me, it should really be the co-chair, Yusek. Thank you.
Thank you, RD Maylin. And again, we have feedback also here from other other RDs. So again, as a general rule, I think that that's what we can agree on. And then basically, I think what we should do is to include this in the, if some of the regions are already creating their TORs, then we put this in the TOR.
Thank you, Yusek, and thank you to our RDs. I forgot to mention before we started yung open forum that when we were discussing with Yusek Kaloy, we really thought that this session could help us also craft parang standards, no, discuss among the RDs so that we can also identify mga next steps, or if there's parang supplemental issuance or any amendments that we should be raising. We could use this platform as well. Hindi lang siya Q&A. So if you also have suggestions other than questions, we'd be very much happy to entertain them. Sige.
Hello po.
Yes, sir.
Is Abet Domingo po. Let us respect the wisdom why the co-chair and the chair was created. The co-chair, if it represents the private sector, yung co-chair, yung chair niya is from the government sector. So yung wisdom of representing the both government and the private sector perspective in dealing with the decisions of the RDC, irespeto naman din po natin ulit. Thank you po.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am Jemima Olam is raising her hand.
Yes, good morning. Naririnig po ako, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear
Yes, just to ano po, parang siguro just to clarify on the part of the regional directors of NEDA as vice chair, no, since we are not members of the RPPC. So what will be our role? Parang secretariat siya, we can parang participate in the discussions but not in the voting process, because parang kasi nandun yung chair, nandun yung sectoral chairpersons, but the vice chair is not present. So what would be our parang dynamics when we sit? Should we sit in the RPPC, or should it just be the secretariat? Or yun, just to clarify po, to guide us how we will parang perform during such meetings po. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, ma'am. So NEDA will participate, the NRO will participate as the secretariat of the regional PPP committee. It is not a voting member in the rules that we have at the moment. But we note, as I also mentioned earlier, we have noted a suggestion already kung pwede maging member ang NRO, no, apart from being a secretariat, and we have noted that, and that will be raised to the PPP governing board. In the meantime, I confirm NEDA regional office is not a member. The participation is as secretariat.
Okay, thank you po.
Thank you, Ma'am Jemima. Sir Richardson Kua is also raising his hand. Good morning, sir.
Good morning po. Can I be heard po? Hello, can I be heard? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Yeah. So just going back to the question regarding who is going to be the alternate of the second co-chairperson in case the chairperson is not available. I personally yield no to the recommendation na yung default na alternate would be the co-chairperson. But in the case of Region 10, there are actually peculiarities across regions. Region 10, RDC 10, sector committees have LCEs, local chief executives as the chairpersons, and the co-chairpersons from the private sector. And we also have other officials of the SECOM, which are the vice chairperson for the from the local government and vice chairperson from the private sector. So if I may just put it on the table na as a recommendation na kung pwede yung co-chairperson default alternate, but in case yung dalawa hindi available, the chairperson can designate the other officials. And second, quick question lang po, will there be a recusal clause or recusal clause of the guidelines or the soon to be issued supplemental guidelines in case the proponent, a local chief executive, is also the chairperson of the sector committee, just to of course rule out any conflict of interest. Thank you po.
On the Yusek Aloy, I'll take the first crack and then please feel free to add po. So on the first point, we're taking that suggestion and consider that no in the template that we will make. And I think ang next step na nakikita ko on the part of PPP Center is based on this discussion, we'll draft and then circulate it, give everyone time to comment before we finalize. So I'm thinking something to the effect na co-chair as the alternate, but if it is, so long as it's a government entity, no, if it is a private, then baka yung vice or another rep. I think yun yung parang ganun yung tone ng first comment. The second, on the COI, if the SECOM chair is the LGU itself, the concerned LGU requesting, this one is already addressed by the PPP code itself, no, and the IRR, which has a conflict of interest provision that says anyone na as soon as may mag-arise na COI in the process, the concerned person has to inhibit himself or herself, no. What I think should the guidance that we need is pag nag-inhibit siya, sino yung papalit. And I think we can go back to the other rule kanina na then it will be the co-chair, and if not, sino na. So there.
Thank you, sir. There's also a comment in the chat box from RD Teng Mendoza. In the RDC reso that we will pass, the limitation of the PPP board reso will be augmented by giving authority to the RDC vice chair to serve as the acting chair of the RDC or PPPC in cases that the chair and the co-chair are not around, as in election season.
This one, sir, just to provide feedback, yung concern na election related, this has been raised already actually to Sec Balisacan. And he did mention na if there is a need nga to have an amendment, then we should do so. But taking this suggestion, we can probably take this suggestion and have it checked with our legal if this can stand, no? At the interim. Para even without amending it yet, parang it could magiging operational siya. So thank you for this suggestion. Yusek?
Yes, I think we also have to make another decision point. We already discussed earlier the one for the members, diba? The sectoral the SECOM chairs as members, and if they're not available, who is going to replace them? I think we also have to discuss the chair, mainly because there are two options now, di ba? Pag wala yung chair, di ba yung co-chair is also a member, right? So the co-chair takes the co-chair takes over to chair, di ba? Now, ang issue ngayon is that when both chair and co-chair for some reasons are not available, would the one option is that one of the members will act as chair, or parang getting some feedback from feelers from the RDs, parang the vice chair takes over. But the problema ko lang is that the vice chair is not a member.
Totally agree po you sa Kaloy.
It agree to what?
Yusek, if I may say, speak po, Yusek.
Okay.
With due respect also to RD Teng, I personally, I really find it off, no, na kung wala yung chair and co-chair, yung vice chair ng RDC, because in the first place, hindi po tayo member nung committee. Parang I've never seen a committee na yung hindi member ang magpe-preside. In most cases, they will choose and elect among the members na present kung sino yung mag-preside, but not someone who is not a member. Sa RDC, that's allowed because the RDC vice chair is a member, which are the NEDA directors. But in this case, secretariat lang po talaga ang NEDA, and I don't think we should preside the meeting now in the absence of the chair and co-chair. Yun lang po, Yusek.
Okay. Ang suggestion ko in the meantime, while again, until the guidelines are changed, di ba, by the PPP Governing Board, and I think there's openness naman for the PPP Governing Board to to change that. And I think one of the first things na kailangan akyat doon is really the representation of the NEDA. So in the meantime, I think if ever we do a TOR, say the regions, kasi may question din doon eh. Ibabalik ko lang sa question doon na parang is the creation of the RPPC immediate, no? Now I think the answer to that is that if there are already, if you think that there are projects in the pipeline already that are that it's about to be submitted to NED or to the RDC, then you really have to create as soon as possible. But if it's not naman immediately there, depende, I'm not so sure yet. What is the situation across the 15 regions that we have? So baka hindi immediate. Kundi naman kailangan kung there are no pending or no projects that are about to be endorsed. But in the meantime, for those our NROs that are preparing TORs for RDCs to approve through a resolution, a suggestion ko na in terms of the representation, yun yung mangyari, the chair, the co-chair, and then any of the members who can be elected to be able to chair the meeting. Then let's discuss na lang NEDA later on.
Yusek, if I may, I confirm, sir, in terms of urgency, you are right. Wala namang timeline na ibinigay on the or deadline na ibinigay on the creation. So what will really determine yung urgency nito is when there is a project, no? And following that discussion dun sa ating NRO Congress, and Yusek Kaloy's suggestion to sort of see the lay of the land kung may mga projects ba napapasok, probably so that we're all on the same page, based on our monitoring, Team Can We Flash, ano yung nakikita naming mga regions na may projects, so that this could also be yung flag natin na kung meron po kayo sa regions nyo na hindi namin nasama dito para pa-flag po para ma-monitor din namin. I think this was circulated naman, no, to the core site, in the core site, yung kaninang link. Ay may summary ba? Mahaba pala to. So, ang nakikita po namin ay may targeted for award ng 2025. 10, and then yung 3 this 2024. But I think yung mga 2024, these are parang na-process past the approval stage na to if I'm not mistaken. So parang hindi naman ito sobrang urgent. It's those na nasa 2025 ang most probably dadaan for under these new guidelines.
Okay, sige.
Sir, I would like to ask a question po.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, just to add, yung ni-raise po ni RD Teng is on the chairperson. So in the absence of a chairperson during elections or during an election year, mawawala din yung co-chair, no, who is a PSR. If the sectoral committees, chairpersons and co-chairpersons are also LCEs and PSRs, that would also mean na wala din yung members during an election year na just kasi magre-recur every 3 years eh. So if we have projects, ganyan, so may naka-pipeline. So ano din dapat ang yung nasa TOR pag yung sa RDC kasi it's either talaga LCE, PSR or regional directors yung sa SECOM na officials, but mostly like on our part, yung LCE yung chair, co-chair yung PSR. So on an election year, pareho yan silang lahat wala. So how would that now play on the pag may naka-pipeline? So yun lang. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, idagdag ko na all those election-related concerns that were raised during the NRO Congress and that meeting we had with Yusek Kaloy and team, those were raised to Sec Balisacan. And that's when he said nga na if there's really need to provide supplemental even prior to amending the guidelines, we do so. So I think we'd like to get suggestions from this group what could be the proposal. So ang offhand based on the discussion so far, kung mga number one, I understand minority if I'm not mistaken. I think we did a quick run through of the membership na full local officials yung mga SECCOM chairs. Kindly correct us po, no? Parang we did a quick run through of the membership. Parang mas to be fair, mas isolated yung cases na lahat sila ay politicians. Number two, as for those instances na politicians, we're thinking baka a supplemental guidelines that would say ang alternate nila would be yung parang officials na hindi na non-politician, no, para makapag-act pa rin yung regional PPP committee in the absence of these politician chairs, no. So but this is open for comments, suggestions, feedback. Yes, Yusek.
In the interim, just in case na mangyari to, usually siguro July, August, and September, di ba? Of next year. Yun lang naman yung gap, di ba? Na wala tayong is election, di ba? Which then July, August, and September, di ba?
Yes, Yusek.
So in that case, what I was thinking is that okay, since it's the SECOM that's parang there in the RPPPC. So kung na si ang chair at co-chair ay malagas dahil politician and a politician or a politician and a PSR, then you can also get from the from di ba at the time and automatically the SECOM is still there, no? It's just that the PSR members are not there or talagang during this interim period talagang the SECOM is not there anymore because nawala na yung PSRs. Kaya pa ba if there are no PSRs and LCEs in the SECOM, can the SECOM still function or not?
Yusek?
Yes.
Yes, Yusek. The SECOM still functions with a vice chair in the committees.
Okay,
Yeah.
so ang mangyari noon, ang feeling ko since it's the SECOM that's being represented in the RPPPC. So ang sa parang the vice chair or if is the vice chair always a regional director?
Neda
Yes.
po, Yusek.
What?
It's the vice chair who is parang siya de facto na vice chair siya pag wala yung both.
No, pero sino usually na-elect na vice chair? Regional director ba or PSR tsaka LCE?
The vice chair is always the NEDA. There is no
The
need for
NEDA.
NEDA.
In the SECOM? In the
For all the
SECOM?
chair. Yes.
Sino sa NEDA yung RD?
Di po.
Sino yung division chief?
RD, sir, RD po ang co-chair, sir, ng SECOMS. Pero like in our case po, ang RDC SECOMS naman, may co-chair po ng mga regional agencies.
No. Ang question ko, kasi in some regions, okay, uh, uh, for Region 3 daw, the second vice chairs are RDs of RLAs. Is that true to all the other 14 regions or no?
No
No.
po. Ang
No.
vice chair po
Yusek.
namin, NEDA po.
Even for
Oh.
Region 1 USEC, it's the vice chair is the NEDA RD.
Okay.
Yusek, in the case,
Okay, Maylene, in the case of Region 8, ano?
region don't have a vice chair for each of the SECOM.
Wala kayong vice chair.
Them ay government and PSR.
No, wala kayong vice chair sa Region
Wala
8.
kaming vice chair sa Region 8.
Ba't nagkaganyan? Iba yung inyong operational manual?
Yun lang talaga Yusek, chair and co-chair, but
Oo nga.
actually,
So bakit ganun? Iba yung operational manual niyo compared to other regions?
most likely ganun. But
Okay.
as to functioning Yusek, kung kailangan namang mag-convene ng SECOM, pwede namang mag-convene. The SECOM can just elect from among themselves kung sino yung magiging interim presiding officer if the need arises.
Okay, sige. So ang suggestion ko is that in the interim lang, and this will probably only happen during 3 months during is that okay, if wala yung chair and co-chair, then the vice chair. If there's no vice chair, then the SECOM members can elect the representative to the RPPPC. Is that what we can do in the meantime lang? Because this is going to happen like 3 months.
Yusek, if I may just interject, actually when we raised this, one of the feedback that was given was, yung LGU naman na magpapasa supposedly sa regional PPP committee, wala rin. Kasi nga, new election. So, there's a very little...
Yes,
so, in terms of openness, open naman na to issue supplemental guidelines, but we were given that feedback also na parang
okay, sige.
Baka i-assess natin gaano ka real yung threat, no?
No, so just in case na since it's being raised, and again some people are concerned and about it, so we can just put that na lang, that mechanism, if in case it happens na ito 3 months na to or 4 months na to na just after election ay it happens na there is a project that is moving forward.
Got that, Yusek. Sorry, I cut off someone. RD? RD Senito? Yeah.
Yusek, we can also entertain the possibility of having the current or existing RPPC act on the interim. We'll just put it in the guidelines. Sila pa rin yung mag-act on the projects pag kinakailangan during those months na walang chair or mga politicians yung chair or co-chair or PSR.
So ang suggestion mo, okay, hindi na sila governor, hindi na sila mayor, hindi sa PSR, tapos magko-convene kayo with them?
Yes, but it can be covered with a resolution or in the guidelines, Mr. Chair.
Can I hear from other RDs? Para on hold over capacity. I mean, that might be a more difficult thing to do. Parang without changing the guidelines, di ba? Right now, parang we're trying to work within the guidelines, right? So parang, but if you're saying na kung hold over, hindi pwede gawin ng RDC resolution yon.
It can be sa guidelines po. Pwede naman siguro sa guidelines ilagay.
That can be considered in the guidelines if ever, no? I mean, we're bringing that up. So Jeff, I think we should that's also another option na that's more simpler. because they
Para
act on
holdover capacity.
over capacity. But then for this one without kasi we have to we have to move forward. We might have to move forward without I don't know without waiting for the new guidelines to be out, right? So ano ko is that in the meantime, I think yun naman yung we follow the conventional the conventional representation, 'di ba? So yun.
Yes, Yusek.
But thank you RD, please. I think that can also be one of the options.
Yusek Kaloy.
Yes.
In the case of Region 3, parang dahil regional line agencies naman yung yung vice chair, baka pwede sa amin na
Oo naman.
sa government, not yung holdover capacity nung hindi na local chief executive.
Hindi na nga. In the meantime kasi if we're working within the current guidelines, yun ang mangyayari talaga. 'Di ba? And then if there's no vice chair or if there is no or if the vice chair is also a PSR, then probably nga you can convene the SECOM, the whoever's remain the SECOM, and ask them to elect one person to be able to do the representation. Or kung isa lang ito, para hindi na mahirap, di wag na, let him be absent and then may representation ka pa naman three other SECOMs,
Basta may
the chair and the co-chair. So wala naman problema yon.
All right, thank you, Yusek and RDs. We will now move on to the next question from NRO Mimaropa. Is it possible to expand the membership of RPPPC to assist in the review of local PPP projects?
Oh, okay, so well, just the short answer is no, unless it's amended in the guidelines itself. What I can share with the group is that there was really a deliberate effort to parang streamline yung structure of the decision makers for this particular stage, yon that is not to discount the fact and the importance of getting or consulting a bigger group if needed, and that is the reason why the provision in the guidelines that states that the regional PPP committee may invite other stakeholders as needed on a per project basis, kasi baka iba-ibang set of stakeholders yung kailangan nating involve depende dun sa project. But the decision makers, unless the guidelines is amended, it will be itong membership that we have described earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, DD Jeff. We'll go to the next slide. The next question is from NRO4A. Does this role of the RDC still hold true? This is respective of the RDCs may assist in the coordination of LGUs in the approval of the local PPP project. This is from the press mat during the PPP Congress. It is not in the press mat now.
Yeah, it's still in the guidelines. Mas detalyado po yung yung NRO Congress materials natin. This is a crunched version, but that statement is still in the local approval guidelines.
All right, we'll go to the next question from NRO 8. Will the RPPPC monitor the procurement or implementation of PPP projects? Why aren't the members of RPPCs required to observe the procurement of PPP projects? Why are NROs? Why not RPPPC member?
Okay, thank you for that. A couple of questions there. So the first one, will the RPPC monitor the procurement implementation of projects? No, very specific yung Regional PPP Committee in relation to its role in the local approval process, For the monitoring, the code and the IRR refers to a PPP governing board issuance, which is now in the works, no, pertaining to the monitoring of projects. So totally different po siya. Second, why aren't the members of the RPPC required to observe the procurement of PPP projects? So in the IRR, may specific membership seats ang in-identify. In fact, magkaiba for national, magkaiba for local. That is already a product of the deliberations by the IRR committee and the series of consultation sessions conducted. So we're just following that po. Whether other members of the RPPPC may observe in the procurement of projects, I think ang position ng IRR natin is that the PBAC will have the final decision. There is a flexibility in the IRR given to PBAC na minimum yung mga binigay na membership, no? They may choose to expand it if they wish to do so. Why NROs? Why not RPPC member? As mentioned, yun po yung na-deliberatan, so we're just following what is in the IRR.
All right.
May I add to that? We know naman the structure of we know naman the process of that's basic in our work. Na okay, we do formulation, we do design, we do planning, we do then we approve, procure, implement, and everything, no? So issue naman ng like when you look at the NEDA board or the PPP board, di ba? When they approve projects naman, they're not the NEDA board, when you approve a big project and tapos ang gagawa niya, let's say DPWH, hindi naman yung mga board members ang mag-monitor ng procurement noon, di ba? In terms of the monitoring, kaya we have the regional the RPMC na if it's just a big project, it falls within the ambit of the RPMC, then that's when the monitoring comes, no? But in terms of the procurement and implementation dito, which is basically the implementation, so you're saying that do you monitor the implementation? Kaya you have the RPMC to do that, di ba? So there's a mechanism for that, for the monitoring. And then in terms of the procurement, I would believe that there are also enough controls that as in the procurement processes and in the procurement statutes, that again let it be their problem now to do the procurement and if there are, and let those controls work.
Thank you, Yusek. I hope that answers it.
Follow up lang.
Yes,
There
sir.
are instances that the RDC would ask what happened to the endorsed programs and projects by the RDC. Ano yung batting average niya? These are the questions being raised by the RDC. Similarly, I think the RPPCs would also ask for this. Anong nangyari doon sa mga nagawa natin? So if it's going to be reported by the RPMES na hindi sa RPPC i-present, medyo mag-aalanganin din po tayo. That is why in the TOR, we should also include that the monitoring and the implementation of these PP projects that they approve or endorse, dapat kasama din pong i-monitor. Thank you.
Yeah, we're taking note of that, sir, no, dun sa TOR and then dun sa PPP monitoring framework and protocols. Shelo, do we still have questions?
All right, let's now go to the next question from NRO3. May prescribed quorum po ba for our PPPC? may we follow our RDC's guidelines on quorum requirement, which is 50% plus 1. In that case, 4 members is the ideal quorum for the RPPPC to officially convene and transact business.
So the guidelines did not indicate a number. So I think yung straightforward na 50 plus 1 is applicable. Yeah, because each will have one vote eh. But we're tagging
Again,
that. Yeah.
okay, this is an aside, no? But again, when you make your TORs on quorums, if the base is large, okay magsabi na 50% plus 1. But if the base is small, you put there a simple majority. Okay? Kasi ito implication yan eh. When you say na kung 5 ang members, let's say, in this case it's 4, right? It's 6. But if it's 5, ang mangyari niyan, 50% is 2.5, you round it off to 3, and you have to have 1 pa. So lumalabas na kailangan 4 to have a majority. If your rule is 50% plus 1. Okay? So for small, if the base is small, better do a simple majority kasi makakaproblema ka later on. But in this case kasi it doesn't matter because it's 6. So dapat 4 talaga. But if it's, let's say, 7, magkakaproblema ka because if you're 7, you must have 5. Must have 5, di ba? To get a 50% plus 1. But you only need 4 if it's simple majority. Okay? So paalala lang sa mga RDs and ARDs there, walang problema if it's big. If you have 70 members, 50% plus 1 is not a problem. But if you have a committee of about 5 members or 7 members, then you might opt to say a simple a majority, not 50% plus 1.
Thank you, Yusek.
But in this case kasi since nagkakaproblema kayo kung it's an odd number eh. Pero if it's an even number, wala ka talaga. It doesn't matter. But mas issue if it's a smaller number of members and you want to get a majority. So a 50% plus 1 is different from a simple majority. Yun lang, aside lang.
Thanks, Yusek.
All right, let's proceed to the next question from NRO.
But to answer that question, ano yan, di ba? Majority, you want a majority to be able to have a quorum.
Yes.
Okay. Sige.
All right, next question po from NRO 11. For PPP projects to be jointly implemented by an NGA and LGU, what BAC will be mobilized during the procurement process? Will a separate BAC comprising of NGA and LGU personnel be created? What is the policy supporting for this?
So in the IRR, RD, ang nakalagay naman doon na the IAs should all be represented in the committees. Same is true for PBAC, and I think may isa pa during approval. Ganun din, yung kung magkakaroon ng joint committee, the parties need to be represented.
Noted.
Shello?
Yes. Yusek, are you raising your hand po? Or we can proceed po to the next question. All right. So we will proceed to the next question from NRO 3. If such a local PPP project being reviewed was proposed by a local government unit and or private entity whose representative are sitting members of the RPPPC, should the concerned sitting member inhibit or be allowed to sit and decide?
Yeah. So I think this was answered earlier. So the IRR says my COI yung puzzle is who is going to replace, no, which is covered by our earlier discussion sa mga suggestions. Thank you.
All right. Next question from NRO 8. Why is it not specific that the Secretariat of the RPPPC is the RDC Secretary and NRO RDC focal staff if the decision of the RPPPC is tantamount to the decision of the RDC Full Council? It is suggested that the NRO RDC focal staffs be the Secretariat support staff and the RDC Secretary served as the Secretary of the RPPPC.
Yusek Kaloy, I think we discussed this during the NRO Congress, no? So our appreciation, and I can confirm the appreciation of the PPP Governing Board is medyo institutional yung inassign niya. So when it said NEDA Regional Office is the Secretariat, so however the NRO works, no? Definitely that's the head of the RD as the head of the NRO Secretariat is the actor, no? But whether my assigned or my whatever set up within the RDC, it is the entire office that is being assigned to be the secretariat.
I think the internal mechanisms would actually depend on the NRO setup and the competencies, no, of the different people and the different divisions. But we leave that to we leave that to the RD to decide.
Thank you, Yusek.
All right. Thank you, Yusek. We still have few more questions. I think we have 6 questions. Would it be okay if we will be spilling over lunch po since it's already 12 p.m. na po?
Yeah,
Yes,
sige.
silence means yes.
Alright po.
Yes,
Sige po.
yes.
So with that po, proceed po tayo sa next question from NRO 4A. Local PPPs affecting national or sectoral development plans and national projects. What is the meaning of affecting here?
Affecting means well, it's in the IRR, no? This was lifted. This is a wording in the IRR. And it's used very liberally. Ang idea lang niya is kapag nag-interface yung isang proposed LGU project to any project that is in the CLIPS or any national project, then it is deemed to have affected. The premise here and the spirit of this is in determining whether certain endorsement or approval is needed. So in the case of national projects, for instance, para mas ma-illustrate ko, it did not so wala siyang quantification whatsoever, even a potential overlap, no? It is deemed, the criteria is deemed to have been met. The idea is that let the approving or the endorsing or approving body that was indicated in the IRR be the one to determine whether may red flag ba or they can actually coexist. Meaning, so long as may matamaan, and when we say matamaan ay may interface siya with the other project, it is deemed na yung regional PPP committee yung magsasabi whether the two projects can coexist or not.
Thank you, Didi Jeff. Next question is also from NRO 4A. This means IAs should have their own clips that should be submitted to NEDA and PPPC. Where can we check the consolidated NEDA and or PPPC clips to check if a LGU PPP project is included?
So submissions are ongoing. There is a portion in our website. No, if you visit our homepage, it's on the left-hand side. There's an icon there, clips. if you click it, you will see all of the investment programs, regional development plans, those that have submitted already, and the plans, the investment programs of LGUs. So right now, hindi pa siya kompleto, but we have been receiving submissions since December when the law became effective. I think there's a raised hand.
RD Britannia.
Apo, Asak Jeff, this is just in relation po kasi dun sa previous na question regarding the affecting national concern, follow up lang po. Therefore po, since ang i-endorse lang naman sa RDC are local PPP projects po na affecting national concerns. Therefore po, yung mag-evaluate whether or not a project would be affecting national concern would be the LGUs themselves. Paano po ang bantay natin na sa tingin ni LGU? Kasi in a way that becomes subjective, wala pa kasing specific checklist kung ano yung affecting national concern. So sabihin ni LGU, according to our evaluation, wala namang affecting national concern. So wala po tayong bantay po so pwedeng po ako si LGU, I would not anymore have it endorsed by the RDC kasi sa tingin ko naman hindi, unless nakita namin, na-monitor namin para may PPP ginagawa, hindi tumaan sa RDC, parang ganon. But they would always assert in our evaluation, walang national concern na naapektuhan. So unless ASEC, kung may gagawin bang pre-evaluation si PPP Center doon sa clips na sinubmit, dahil let's say pwedeng si PPP, eto siya LGU would have to recommend you to have this endorsed by the RDC para lang po may bantay po tayo. Otherwise, if I were the LGU, hindi ko po talaga idadaan sa RDC. Thank you po.
Yeah. Thanks, RD. And nice to see you. For everyone's info, nagkaroon kami ng session before, no. Anyway, yung a few points there. One is for unsolicited proposals, at the onset, meron ng gate, no, that is the completeness check of the PPP Center. And this has been working already. Pag sinubmit sa amin within the 10 calendar days, part of the job of the PPP Center is to compare the proposed project sa clips. So, and kapag may nakita kami na potential interface, even if hindi explicit, no, because some of these titles pa lang walang detalye, we flag it. The smallest sense na may potential interface, we flag it. Now, ang meron tayong quote-unquote butas is on the solicited, but the IRR has foreseen that, no, the law has foreseen that, and the IRR is saying which is the second point that I want to raise. The IRR is clear that the IA, so in this case, the LGU, has the responsibility to validate and verify with concerned entities if there is indeed an interface, no? And number 3, there is also a provision in the IRR that states if at any point during the process, in the course of monitoring, NEDA or PPP Center finds out that the project, no, should have secured an endorsement, ang consequence ay 1, the project shall secure the approvals that it missed to secure. So ibig sabihin, effectively babalik siya even if signed na yung contract. And number 2, yung penal provision nung batas. So I think in terms of safeguards, when we read all of these together, the incentives have been placed such that the implementing agency would want to exert due diligence, no, in making sure na makuha yung mga required approvals. I hope that answers it, RD.
Thank you, Asek. Nice to see you again po. Thank you for this clarification. Very clear po. So kahit signed na po, pag nakita lang namin na kailangan talaga, like airport yan, etc., they really have to comply balik.
Yes, kaya isa po 'yan sa aabangan natin dun sa PPP monitoring framework and protocol, kasi that provision in the law and the IRR has to be operationalized. Say, paano yung reporting mechanisms natin among NEDA, the NROs, and the PPP Center? Paano yung flagging system natin so that that part of the IRR could be operationalized? So that's one thing that we can all look forward to.
Thank you so much po.
Thank you, RD. Next question from NRO 8. Our PPPC members will identify concerns and issues on the review of a PPP project, not Secretariat. This is from Sir Amelito Domingo.
Okay, so guidelines-wise, it's silent, no? Kasi medyo structure and process and decision points yung naka-highlight. In terms of operational, I think we can clarify this in the TOR. Just to give you an idea, sa national projects, the Secretariat may, in the course of drafting the report, feed in some suggestions, comments, recommendations for the deliberation of the voting members. So, yun, we can clarify this further, sir. Thank you.
Okay, next question is from NRO 4A. Does our PPPC have a role in the other roads?
Short answer is effectively there's just one. Two. The one is yung setting of RROR. Actually, hindi siya more on no, I'm sorry. I got confused. It's only in the change in PPC, pero ano rin siya, hindi automatic, no? Only if the proposed change in the PPC will affect another national project. In which case, kailangan na niyang kumuha ng regional PPP committee endorsement. And what's the other one? If my? Yeah. And if the change is will now require a national government undertaking. So para mas ma-illustrate po, so basically, kunyari na-approve na yung project, hindi siya dumaan before ng regional PPP committee endorsement, but suddenly they wanted to change the terms of the project, and then yung change na gusto nila will now include either a connection or an interface with a national project, or they will be needing something from the national budget. Then at that point, even if tapos na yung approval ng project, they will have to go through the regional PPP committee endorsement and the ICC approval for the proposed undertaking before they could implement that change in the approved PTCs.
All right, next question is from NRO 4A. Can the RDC Exigom be the RPPC? Also, SECOM or co-chair be an alternative RPPPC member to ensure?
I think we have discussed this already. Yeah, let's go to.
We will just refresh the slide. The next question is from NRO Mimaropa. For local PPP projects under review and deliberation of our PPPC, what is the extent of our review? What are the parameters and basis of our review?
Okay, the short answer is sabi natin kanina, there's an effort to standardize this, no, through the TOR, but conceptually what is expected really is one, ang lookout natin is can the project the proposed project, can it coexist, no, assuming it has an interface with a national project. Can the project proceed such that it can coexist with the national master plan, sectoral plan, or another national project? That's one. And number two, we can review the terms of the proposal, and if we see anything, we can flag for consideration by the appropriate approving body, that is the Sanggunian. So I think that's the short version. And to guide us, no, in terms of yung parameters and bases, if you look at the local approval guidelines, may mga forms and templates na siya na thematic. So for instance, may isa tayong form listing down all of the risks associated with the project. So it will be easier for us to see na parang, is everything in order or sa tingin ko may risk na hindi na-cover, in which case I want to flag, parang ganyan. Or may list, may isa tayong form, list of all government undertakings under the project. So quickly in one run makikita natin meron bang dapat ma-flag dito na parang uy, baka the national government should consider this or the sanggunian should reconsider whether they would allow this or not. Things like that.
All right. Last two questions. Next is from NRO Car. May we know if the creation of the RPPPC is immediate?
Yeah.
And if so, may we invite the PPP Center to present the roles and responsibilities of the RPPPC in our RDC meetings this fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think we have covered this. So yung urgency will depend on the project, no? There is no deadline under the guidelines, pero kung may papasok po na projects, then we will be compelled to operationalize this to satisfy the requirements of the law. Yung to present roles and responsibility, sure, subject to availability, ma'am. We are very much committed naman. In fact, just yesterday, saan ba ko galing kahapon? Sa Cagayan de Oro. So, yung scheduling lang, ma'am. So, let us know soonest possible po. Thank you.
Right. Last question from NRO 10. This pertains to the local PPP projects that involve government undertaking. Is there a focal division or office in the Department of Finance which the region can directly refer to, or the BLGF representation is already sufficient? It is suggested that similar arrangement to that of the PPP Knowledge Corner Focal and PPP Central Regional Focal can be adopted with DOF.
Yung context po ba nito is the provision in the IRR that states RDCs or any entities may consult with the DOF? The answer po is the DOF, privatization and PPP. That's the Office of USEC Cathy Fong. Sila po ang directly nag-oversee ng PPPs on behalf of DOF.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Before we wrap up, are there any more questions or clarifications? You may raise hand or unmute your microphone.
I have a question. This is Medi.
All right po.
In the presentation, I'm not sure if I got it correct. Ang sabi, if a PPP project is not endorsed by the regional PPP committee, the LGU can still proceed with it as long as it will not have any national government exposure. Ibig sabihin, pag hindi na kailangan ng national government counterpart, pwede pa rin ituloy yung project.
Yes, ma'am. That is doon sa insofar as the yung government undertaking that the proposed local project is requiring from the national government. Pero kung ang reason po for the non-endorsement is a conflict, no, yung affecting national plan, sector, master plan, or another national project, yun po yung may kill button.
Okay. Sige.
So
Thank you.
magkaiba siya. Thank
And
you.
then my last question na madali lang. In the list of projects that you presented, yung mga nasa pipeline, all of these projects will go through the regional PPP committee or
no, ma'am, sorry. I think in the report we clarified na these are all the projects na nasa local PPP, classified as local PPP projects. Not all of those will go to the regional PPP committee because they will not meet naman the two requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir Mario of NEDA 7 is raising his hand. Hello, sir.
Okay, thank you po. Sir, in relation to the concern of RDGen Bitania, what if, sir, na yung RPPC mag-disapprove doon sa project na na-approve ng LGU? Kasi huli na po napansin na it will require a RPPC endorsement. So what happens now to the approval ng LGU and also to the project po, sir?
Sir, come again. You mean late na discover, so pinabalik, tapos ang decision is not approved, no?
Yes po, sir.
What happens to it? Okay. So the short answer is walang ganun ka-specific na rules under the existing guidelines. However, when this was discussed no during the deliberation, yung scenario na yan, medyo mas practical yung approach, no? So assuming implemented yung project, meaning gumagana siya, nagde-deliver siya, tapos na find out na it should have gotten a requirement, pag binalik yon, definitely mukhang yung the RDC would have already considered implication pag hindi mag-ooperate yung project. So malamang ang magsi-circle yung discussion around, are there safeguards that need to be required given na nauna na yon bago yung analysis? Meron bang ire-require na bago in consideration of the contract that has already been signed? Kasi probably may kasama na yung penalties. Ibig sabihin, if the suggestion will be to kill the project, then may applicable termination payment na yun. So magiging ganun na yung nature ng discussion. It's going to be on a per project basis.
Thank you, sir.
Let us not forget na may even with that instance na parang nobody saw it, no? Assuming nobody saw it, we have to assume that the project before it got constructed would have undergone ECC. It would have secured ECC, no? Kung critical project 'yan. And in the ECC, marami na ring determination ng mga stakeholder concerns doon. So parang aside from the rules that are in place in the PPP code, the IRR committee and the PPP governing board considered other parang existing frameworks, no, in the course of implementing a project. I hope that answers it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, DD Jeff. Are there any more questions or clarifications from our participants?
Low po. So what do we expect na gagawin ulit nating lahat after this meeting?
Yeah, immediate.
Meron po.
Yes, immediate next steps natin, sir. Technically wala naman na immediate to-dos on the as far as NROs are concerned. Kami po sa PPP Center actually ang may next steps. One, as I mentioned earlier, we are programming curated sessions, no, with those who will be in charge to do completeness check, etc. So abangan po natin yung dates kasi ongoing yung mga planning, no, for the capacity building programs next year. Once it's there, saka po magkakaroon ng assignment yung ating mga NROs magpadala ng representatives, no. Number 2, yung mga policy discussions that we discussed and operational concerns that we discussed today, we have put them together and we will definitely discuss this with the PPP governing board, including yung appropriate next step, whether that be a supplemental guidelines to be issued by the PPP governing board or an amendment, no, an actual amendment of the guidelines. So we will raise this to the PPP governing board. Thank you.
Will we be consulted again if you're going to propose some amendments to the governing board?
Yes, definitely. The protocols of the PPP governing board require consultations, sir. And I think what I just want to flag is, because I heard the comment also na parang, naku, hindi kami na-consult, ganyan-ganyan. For the record po, itong version ng ating PPP-GB guidelines has undergone consultation sessions also even as early as the IRR discussions. Except that, I think pag nandyan na talaga yung policy, sabi nga ni Sec Balisacan, may mga loopholes talaga tayong makikita and we just really have to plug it, no? And thank you very much our RDs, ARDs, and all of the colleagues sa ating mga NROs for really for raising these very helpful insights. Shelo?
All right. Thank you, Jeff, and also Director Royce for the presentation. And thank you also to our dear participants for your active participation. All right. So as we wrap up the session, Yusek Carlos, would you like to share a few reminders or message to our participants?
No, you want me to give a message? Okay. Okay. No, I'd like to thank the RDs and the ARDs and the staff from the NROs for attending. Here now we almost all RDs attended, and thank you very much. Again, we have been discussing with PPP Center because when this was presented during that forum, we already had some of your concerns that you raised were also our concerns, and we already had given that feedback. So again, it's important, no, okay, we have this common appreciation, understanding, a general understanding of the guidelines, and that again, I guess today our even our half session today is very important because we got a lot of inputs that would help us um, enhance the current guidelines. At the same time, we already agreed on some ways on how to move forward, particularly potential in regions that would have projects that have to be reviewed. So again, thank you very much. And again, we will continue to engage with the NROs on this matter.
All right, thank you, Yusek Carlos. We would also like to share a few reminders. So please accomplish the CBA quiz and evaluation form. The link and the QR code will be flashed on the screen and i-share din po namin ito sa chat box natin. The participants who were able to accomplish the attendance form and the evaluation forms and pass the quiz shall receive a certificate of attendance to be sent through your registered email addresses. And also please note that the form is limited to one response per participant and the deadline is on November 11, 2024. That's Monday. Next, the presentation materials will be shared in the core site. We will upload it in the core site. And please do not post in the social media the presentation materials. Only the shareable materials are those uploaded in the PPP Center's website. And also for more updates on the Philippine PPP program, PPP projects, and the PPP Center, please follow our social media pages. All right, so now I invite everyone to please turn on their cameras for a quick group photo.